up? So glad you could join us. It is the Smoke Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Kindly joined by the chef, Dave Hubbard. He is also the butcher at the butchery on Orchard Lake Road in Sylvan Lake. And Mike, Joe, whatever, kindly joining us as well. Hi, Joe, Mike.
It's great to be here.
Oh, boy.
I'm not quite sure how I got here. I took a left somewhere. Maybe you're right. But Mr. Steve, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Today it is pork, all things pork. I thought a great campaign back in the day, Dave, was pork the other white meat. Mike and I would counter pork the underrated meat because there are so many different things that you can do with pork. Mike, you and I have done with pork. Dave, all three of us have done with pork, and that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to celebrate pork.
More specifically, pork loin, right? So we're going right to the heart of it. We're gonna ride the pig from the top to the bottom, and we're gonna
tail to snout.
You got it.
Nailed it.
Perfect.
All right, so what do we have here today? Other than like that, I haven't tried any of that candy bacon.
That was just a trick.
I haven't tried any.
A treat, if you will, just a little treat, because I know you do your morning show with Mr. Bell, and so I thought I'd bring you a little treat. I know you're hungry when you come in, or when we come in, I should say.
I haven't tried any.
So I'm gonna start by telling you a little bit about what we took. One piece of the whole pork loin. So you got the whole pork loin. It runs from one end to the other end of the pig. Let me grab this. You can see right on the side here. See where it says loin there, Sean? Mm-hmm. And I'll show everybody. Literally coming right this way. So the bones in that is pretty much the baby back rib, if you will. So what we did was we made some pork chops. We took the pork loin and we deboned it, and then we rolled it and we wrapped it with some pancetta. We also took the pork tenderloin, which is on the inside of that loin, right on the opposite side of that bone, and we sous vide that and wrapped it in bacon, Mike's favorite. So we have a pork tenderloin done there. And then we took the whole pork loin. So we just took the whole thing, the bone-in pork loin roast here, and I put that bad boy on the Traeger and let it go for about 5 hours. And we're going to see how that turned out. We also made a couple barbecue sauces. Got a special pork loin pork chop that I put into a nice brine. You know how we brine the turkeys and whatnot at Thanksgiving? So I put those in a basic brine, a boneless pork loin chop. And then I put a root beer glaze on them. So we'll see how that turned out too. So where do you want to start? I would love to start with the pork tenderloin, but
let's do it.
You tell me what you want to do.
No, you know what I also want to point out, Dave? This is one thing, and like during our show, people were asking us, hey, can you guys put up some recipes? Watch, this is so easy. A lot of this stuff, not all of it, a lot of this stuff we've done in my backyard. I mean, again, Mike, we're amateurs, okay? There's no doubt about that. Let the record show that we're amateurs. Maybe we'll build our way up to going on the circuit or anything. Right. I think the three of us could do some damage, but this is stuff that we've had trial and error with and have done in my very backyard.
Absolutely. We've done all this in your backyard. I think I was on Twitter the other day talking about the little special treat you get when you cut that off the bone, and you get what Dave just said. You reveal those little baby backs there. I think we threw them back on your Weber and stuff like that. But if there is a question, what we were saying on your show, get a hold of us. Smoke Show WSN, Instagram and on Twitter, right? The Facebook has a whole comment section. You can go there. And I went in the other day, and Dave was saying, hey, send me your email. I'll send you the recipe for everything that's there. So he didn't have to go into it right there on the Facebook page.
Chef Dave Hubbard Jr. at gmail.com, and I'll get you any recipes that we do on the show directly to you. Or I'll also we'll try to explain a little bit more as we're going along. Like we'll explain what we're doing or how we did it, maybe a little more in detail during the show. Going forward, I think that'll help us a little bit.
Before you cut into that, very quickly, we always like to recap what we did the week before. We all practice what we preached. What we talked about the last couple of weeks here is what we did at our house. I did 3 racks of ribs. I did 3 different style racks of ribs. Tremendous, no doubt about that. I did some buffalo chicken dip. I want to get his recipe for the queso. But how did things go at your house, Mr. Hubbard?
I made the queso again, but I made it because my father-in-law is a little more conscious of the grease and the fats in his meat. So instead of using pork to make the chorizo, I ground up some turkey and then made a turkey chorizo and made the queso dip out of that. and it wasn't as deep in flavor. You know, pork is a nice sausage. You know that flavor. It was a little more mild in flavor. Had a good amount less fat or grease, if you will. So it didn't have the same depth of flavor as the one we made. But it was really good, and it had a good amount less calories. So it was definitely nice. And then wings. I don't know if you guys saw. I did so many wings, and I ate on them for probably the next 3 days. Because I was excited when Tampa Bay won, so I was having a party for one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
baby. So did you do those Traeger sweet wings that we had? Was that the ones you did?
Yeah, totally. It was the butchery barbecue rub that I had a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of red pepper flakes. Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Put them on the Traeger and smoked them. I think I really because I'm that steakhouse guy that flipping the steak and controlling all that stuff. I can't help but rotate my wings and really work them around and try to get the perfect golden on all sides. And I think I accomplished that pretty well. It's no different than what I did here with some of this pork. It's like just moving it around on the Traeger. I always talk about, or grill, whatever, smoker, knowing your equipment and finding your hot spots, right? So you know where to. And so on those Traegers, that heat comes from that outside, right? Because the flame is coming from around that plate, if you will. And so you can kind of smoke your meat or whatever in the middle, and then kind of move it to the outside, kind of rotate, and then that's where you get the browning or the color, and that's get that nice flavor that adds to it. So yeah, that's what we did. We did wings and queso dip. Long-winded. What'd you do down there, Mike?
Those wings looked beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Well, I think just like you, I remade that queso with some smoked Gouda.
I love it.
It's still, my buddy had me freeze some. He's coming to pick it up so he can eat some later. But I think the surprise of the show, I was telling you, was those butchery short ribs that I did a few days before. Saved them. I chopped them up nice with a little bit of cheese, a touch of cream cheese, some butchery seasoning in there, and I stuffed them in some monster jalapenos, wrapped them in bacon, threw them on the grill, little brown sugar on them as they were
Oh my
going.
gosh.
It was unbelievable. And next time I do it, I'm going to put a little jalapeno jelly in it, which is what I've been putting in my poppers. That's what it was missing.
That stuff's great.
It's unbelievable.
You gave me some. I remember that. Yeah.
It's real good. So
It's
I'm going
gone.
to sneak just a little bit of that.
Little heat.
A little sweet, a little heat in there.
Sounds
it was
really
real
good.
good.
Really nice.
That ended up good. Then just the easy nacho taco bar. I mean,
Can't go wrong there.
Can't
my
go
favorite.
wrong
My
there.
absolute
Yeah.
favorite.
It's all stuff that, like, as we showed on the show, it's so easy. I hope if you guys haven't seen the last episode, really the last two episodes, because we spent the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl talking about, how we do things. It really is that simple. It is. I mean, for me, my prep time started about 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yep.
I'm going to stop talking now because Dave is cutting this open, and
So
I don't want to talk anymore.
This is really nice.
When there's
So I
time to
took a pork tenderloin, right,
Yeah.
from the other side of the
Looks
loin.
pretty good.
And I wrapped it really tight, seasoned it, wrapped it really tight in bacon, and then sealed it and put it in the sous vide. Brought it to about 135 degrees in the sous vide, and then pull it out, let it rest overnight. And then this morning, I threw it on the Traeger to kind of brown up the bacon. You can see there's a really nice smoke ring on it.
I was just going to say.
And it should be nice. It shouldn't be overly dry, right? You should have a little bit of moisture.
Really nice smoke ring.
But it's really pretty.
Look at that. Yeah.
I also have some more. There you go. Sean's gonna bring it to you.
See that smoke ring? See that? Let me that pink right there?
I got you, Mike.
That's what's called the smoke ring.
So I'm gonna cut up a couple more pieces for Mike. And so I have a couple. If you guys want to try, I did a couple barbecue sauces this week. Well, I pretty much do every week. So we did. I did an apple and bacon. So we got a lot of crushed up bacon and smokiness going on with some apples. I also made, because we're doing all this pork loin, I also made some pork or some applesauce, some cinnamon applesauce. So
Pork chops and
sauteed
applesauce.
Totally. Sauteed some apples, a little brown sugar, and then kind of pureed them, and then added some more sauteed apples. So if you want a little applesauce with your pork loin, Sean, try that. And then there's, Mike, you have this applesauce.
Yep.
Or this apple barbecue with bacon. It's a little chunky, but I'm telling you, this barbecue sauce is really cool. I don't know if you tried it yet or if you like it.
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Here's some applesauce.
Really, I'm a firm believer if you add bacon to anything, it just makes it better. That's just one man's opinion.
Piggybacking on them teasing you for being the old guy on your show, there's some applesauce that kind of melded right in real well today, huh?
You know what,
that's great.
Dave? The smoke on this is impressive.
It's
That's what
perfect.
jumped out to me. Yeah, the
It's
smoke.
perfect.
It's a strong smoke on there.
Because we're sous vide it, we're cooking it with the bacon, right? The smoke from the bacon. Think about it. So it's being slowly cooked,
wait.
and all that smoke from the bacon is kind of leaching into the pork loin or
Did I
tenderloin.
just hear you? Right? You sous vide it with the bacon on it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we wrapped it,
Oh.
and then in the bacon, and then sous vide it.
I thought you sous vide it then wrapped.
No,
so
no,
you sous
no,
vide
no.
it with
so
the
yeah,
bacon.
so that
on there.
bacon, see, you have the smoke ring and the bacon, but the bacon lended all that smoke flavor to it while it was cooking really slow in that
that
sous
is
vide.
beautiful. And that's just so for those going to buy to look to do something, this is just would be called the pork tenderloin. What you wrapped. Right, all right. Oh man, you did it to 135.
Yeah, 135 in the sous vide, and then throw it on the grill, So here's the thing: you can throw that on your stove top on a cast iron skillet. You can throw it in a smoker on a rubber grill, on your charcoal grill. It doesn't matter because it's already cooked through the sous vide. We could even throw it on that smokeless.
Let me give Stick some.
I was just gonna say we're gonna give some to our special guest help today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stick.
Dave, if I could ask, what do you have to say
I
for
had
people
to kick Art out.
Yeah, I mean, Art
Hey.
with that gluten issue, we had to get rid of him.
What would you say to the people that would be nervous about 135 or 145 pork?
Well, because we're put it on the Traeger and we're cooking it more, I'm not worried about that. Number one. Number two, this is heritage raised pork, Michigan pork. It's 2021. Yeah. Like, there's really no issues with cooking your pork less than well done. There isn't, there hasn't been an issue with undercooked pork in decades. We've definitely come a long way. There's no antibiotics or hormones added to these pigs, so they're all natural. So we're not worried about there being too much issue with them being a little under. But this pork tenderloin, this is not undercooked. I mean, you know what I mean? Because we put it back in the smoker or whatever. This thing is up to 150 easily.
Oh,
So we're in there.
I like a little bit of pink with my pork.
Sounds
I
good.
think it's totally. I think it's totally fine.
Right,
But
so-
some people do get nervous. They're like 165, 170.
Totally
and it's
understand.
wasted.
Yeah. But these are sous vide too, so they're cooked. We're good. No worries.
I agree
And then
with
we
you.
can move along the pork loin rib and loin chop. So the loin chop has the tenderloin on one side and the loin on the other side, and then the rib chop just has the loin. I sous vide those, and then I grill marked them on the cast iron skillet today, and then threw them in my master built smoker to kind of bring them to 150, 155 so that they could keep temp, hold temp, and just have a little hint of smoke to them. I'm going to see how they turned out. So I'm going to pull them over here and start slicing them.
You would like
and yeah, tell us, Sean, what did you think of that apple barbecue sauce and then the apple sauce?
The apple barbecue sauce is such a great idea because you can use it for a sauce, but you could eat it like an applesauce. It ate like an applesauce to me. And I really did. I had some of it, and I was like, do I have to put this on anything? When you have a delicious chop like this, though, I'm a big fan of... All right, so when we did steaks speak for itself. You really don't have to do anything with the steak. Mike, for me, pork is when you add something, whether it be add more pork with bacon, whether it be adding some of that barbecue bacon sauce that he talked about, whether it be using regular applesauce. To me, pork needs a good sidekick.
Absolutely. That's what when we were setting up, I said pork cries for that barbecue sauce, these glazes that he has, all that kind of stuff, and they go perfectly with it. And if I can go right back to your point, that barbecue sauce is unbelievable, and just in typical Chef Dave fashion, it works so perfect with this pork and the way he did them. You got to try it yourself, people. I'm telling you.
So that's just a little smoked pork chop. It's probably not going to have a ton of flavor, if you will, because it's just pretty simple profile.
No, but it's a good piece of pork.
And it's in a good example of what you were just saying, right? Mm-hmm. So throw some barbecue sauce on it. And which brings me to my next barbecue sauce. We have a habanero garlic barbecue sauce that I made. It's got a little bit of heat, and I made sure it was gluten-free. So Mike, you can get down on this, buddy.
So I'm going to put a habanero in there, and the habanero is going to go down and party with the Reaper pepper and the scorpion pepper that are still having a party in my stomach, by the way.
You don't need that, Mike.
So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a little bit of this.
You don't need that.
This nice barbecue sauce in there for
Why
you.
make
And that's
pain
the.
yourself, though?
Oh, it's not going to be pain. There's enough sweet in here.
You want to try it, Sean? Of course
You have to trust Chef Dave. He put all the flavor profiles in there to work perfectly together and save me.
Here's some of the pork tenderloin from that the loin chop there, Sean.
Thank you very much.
That should be nice and tender, but it should have a
All right,
little bit
Let's
of
try
smoke.
one piece.
That
without.
does have a little bit of a kick. What did you put in that now?
That's garlic habanero.
Did you put a fresh habanero in there, or did you put a habanero sauce in there, sir?
That's garlic habanero barbecue sauce. What do you think I put in there? Some fake habaneros?
Well, I didn't know if you like had a habanero hot sauce that you mixed in with your barbecue sauce.
There's a little bit in there, but no, there's habanero that I kind of
A little bit.
that the habanero is
little
kind
bit in
of
there.
ground up with the garlic, and I kind of toasted it in the pan, and then added the ketchup and the brown sugar.
I
And all
tell
the other
you
good
what,
stuff.
if that was what was on my hot wings last week, I would not have suffered like I did. That's perfect.
Good, because the
Sean?
hot wings you had, that sauce was insane.
That
That's
was
next level, yeah.
unbelievable.
It went up to my nasal passage. Yeah.
It
went up there.
it kicked me, but then it's gone.
But it's not I need to go reach for milk or water. It's not it's a good kick.
So what's next here? Let's move on down the
I'm
road.
shocked McCarty hasn't come in.
So-
yet,
This would be
by the way.
nice.
And these
looking-
were-
McCarty's
and we-
going to walk in any second now.
And I think we talked about it last week. Those were the Duroc chops, right?
Yeah, this Duroc pork. We also have some. The pork loin is Michigan, Utica packing, Michigan raised pigs that are here. They're raised and slaughtered right here in Michigan, so they're all local. But the chops were from a Duroc pig that I got from the Midwest.
I can't
All
get
right, so
enough
what
of
do you
this
got here?
barbecue sauce.
This bad boy here is I took some pork chops and I brined them. Quick brine, a little bay leaf, salt, sugar. I put a little bit of honey in that brine and a little bit of black pepper. And then I took those pork chops, I let them brine for a couple hours, and then I just threw them on the Traeger this afternoon. And then I put them in a barbecue glaze. So there's a nice little
Look at that glaze on the bottom.
nice little here, a little bit of the juice from that glaze,
Here, give
little
me a little bit more of that juice.
little barbecue action there for you, Sean.
Thank you, sir.
Mike, would you like some?
Oh, please. So did you cook them the whole time in this glaze, or did you cook them off and then put them back in the oven with the glaze? I'm sorry if I missed that.
No, you're fine. I threw them on the Traeger and cooked them about half away, and then I put them in the barbecue glaze, the St. Elmo's root beer glaze, and a little bit of water, and then I put them in the foil pan and I put it in the oven and kind of let them steam. So the pork chop will kind of soften up, but it should pretty much just take on the flavor of that root beer glaze.
That flavor is unbelievable. Dave, like, no joke, the flavor is unbelievable.
Yeah, this stuff is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that
isn't
is
it?
like, Mike, that tastes pop to me. Like, you know what you're getting with pork, but there's something about the way that you did that pops.
And it's that brine too, right? That brine, that salt is kind of breaking it down and making it a little bit softer. You can see it kind of shreds up pretty well. This would make for a pretty good pork taco. You know what I mean? Chop it up and throw it on some
That root beer
chips or
glaze,
something.
I love the sweet. That's
I'm gonna
really
pass some of this over to my man stick here.
good. Yeah, hell yeah. So what that is, the third one we've done,
Yeah.
and they're all different from the taste to the texture to everything that you just did.
That's
So
what what jumps out to me. The first two were pork. That was
Right.
something different. That
Yeah.
was some, like, it's pork, but it's something different.
Yeah, I think the brine kind of breaks down that pork enough that it kind of takes on a little different flavor. I mean, it's a little drier.
I like it.
I'm not a big fan.
Right?
no,
No, I think maybe it's a little too dry for me. I'm an honest critic.
No, but to me,
But-
that's what your glaze is for. Like, that's,
Yeah, that's kind of it. But
I
I think,
spilled the glaze
but I
on
think
there.
adding something maybe else to it, that'd be real nice. Spring roll
but
or
that's what
something.
we kept saying about pork.
It's
Pork cries for something else. It
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
doesn't like to play alone.
Throw some applesauce on there. That'll be
Okay.
nice.
Some
I
of
think that'll
this?
work. Yeah. No, the actual applesauce. A big old hunk of apple.
I
in
got it
there.
right here.
Okay.
That's good.
So I'm gonna save the big pork loin for the end. This one here, this is the bad boy that I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I've been
I
waiting.
took some pancetta, and laid it out, and I took a pork loin and I kind of flayed it open, butterflied it open flat, pounded it down so it made it real like long thin sheet of pork loin.
Right.
I took some boars and cheese, some fresh baby spinach, and some sun-dried tomatoes that I kind of julienned, and I mixed that up together and made almost like a paste, if you will, right? So, and I spread that all the way down the pork loin, and then took the pancetta and wrapped it, right? Like almost make a roulade and a pinwheel, if you will. So it's rolled up, and then took that whole thing, sealed it really nice and well, let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then today I took it out of that, set it inside that Traeger, and just let it roast.
So that's the about fourth time we've wrapped stuff in bacon or in some kind of pork product, and I've seen you wrap it in like the saran wrap. Does that add something to it? Does that help it bind together?
Yeah, when I'm wrapping it in the saran wrap, what I'm doing is, I'm trying to seal it really tight. You know,
Okay.
take the air out of it. It's no different than like making like a compound butter or something. You know, where I kind of soften it up. It's gonna harden up or coagulate once it gets colder, if you will.
Okay.
So when that bacon or that pork product kind of coagulates, it kind of seals up. That's why we put that plastic wrap on there to kind of help ensure it to be more sealed. So then it keeps it more form like this when we do cook it.
And I can't tell you how excited I am to do this, because I do this same exact recipe, but I do it with chicken breast. I'll stuff chicken breast with it.
Yeah, 100%.
And it goes well with the sun-dried tomatoes, the spinach, the Baligian cheese, and all that stuff.
One of the biggest things for me, one of the biggest reasons why I like the pancetta or the bacon wrap is because it's pork. It needs some of that fat to kind of help it be a little more flavorful or a little more moist, quite frankly. So I'll slice into this.
I can't wait.
And let me move some of this over here.
Oh, do I need?
Orson is such a good cheese
more of
too.
this?
Yeah,
It's a good cheese.
it takes it takes the heat really well, right? It doesn't like mush out or go, and it holds pretty well. So here's goes nothing. I don't know if this turned out really well or not.
Also, this is like a very first reveal here.
Of course, look at it. It's whole. So let's see. It's tricky to try to get
Did
that
you
on
just
a
call me
smoker
Captain
to
Obvious,
get that
by the
pork
way?
loin cooked in the middle.
Did you just call me Captain Obvious?
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah, it's
no,
whole.
I was teasing.
Ah!
Sorry.
No, but you've never tried this before, Dave. You never tried this before?
No, I just decided I had some sun-dried tomatoes and
Isn't
some
that great?
spinach. And I
Chef
was like,
brain,
I'm gonna
gosh,
make
it's
some.
so
I'm
beautiful.
gonna make some pork loin. Look at this. Isn't that pretty?
That is absolutely beautiful. Look at that.
I don't really say pretty that often, but that's a really nice piece of pork.
Oh, look how beautiful the pinwheel is. Look how beautiful that pinwheel is. See, this is why we need
I
stick.
go show that
I
to
just
you?
wander around and talk anywhere.
Look
Watch
at
this. Here, give me that. You got it? Watch this. Middle camera, right? Snake?
I'll switch to middle.
Okay.
We had a good flow. all we had to do was just show it.
Mike and I were doing really well following directions. There you go,
Where's
Sean.
that habanero barbecue sauce? Can I see that again?
Yeah.
This is perfect.
So that's pretty nice. So I'll get you a piece of that, and I think this should eat pretty nice. This was on that Traeger for about 2.5 hours. It's got a nice smoke ring, and that pancetta, again, that pancetta is probably lending to it a little bit.
That color.
But you can see all the smoked tomatoes or the sun-dried tomatoes. You can see the spinach and the cheese in there, all that goodness.
Wait, let me get it. Set that up. Set that up for a nice, beautiful picture. I'll put
Thanks,
up.
pal.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, he's got the pinwheel. That's
So yes. So then the moisture from the middle, that should moisten it up a little bit too. You know what I mean? The pork, the actual mixture we have inside.
What kind of
there.
spices did you put in there?
Inside, it's just the Baligian cheese, spinach, and the sun-dried tomato. It's kind of doing its own thing.
All right, Dave.
It's all three of them. Like all three of them really are coming out.
And the pancetta kind of comes through too, right? Because it's been sitting in that kind of smoky thing.
Oh, that
It's
is-
pretty nice, isn't it?
Dave, you did a heck of a job with that.
I'm gonna tell you what. My wife would go crazy for this.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I thought about the folks that like the spinach and the feta, you know, that chicken sausage
Right,
that
the
we
sausage.
do. Super popular. Same kind of thing. I was like, what can I put inside here? You know, that will kind of lend itself to almost, it's a roast, but it's a complete dish, right? So you can throw this on some potatoes or something and you're ready to rock and roll.
and you just stuffed it with everything that this pork needs to play with. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
100%.
awesome.
Yeah.
That flavor is that for stick?
Yeah, make a friend. I think
We
you'll
got
like
we gotta
that.
help Maz up too.
Oh, Maz. Maz is
Maz
here.
looks like a hungry young lad.
Oh, Dave.
Get some of this smoked
Dave,
pork
this
loin,
is
Maz.
by far, it's
Oh.
not even like Dave, no disrespect.
Okay, let's go
but
around.
by far, this is the best one. By far.
I think this is where oh boy,
Well,
this is
hold on.
gonna sound a little pompous, but no, I'm telling you, this is where me as a chef, I think this is where my skills as a chef and what I can do on that end kind of lends itself to us doing those things with the smoker and whatnot, right? So taking my classic French, if you will, kind of basic, making a rouladen, if you will, wrapping it in the pancetta, and you would sear or roast this off in the oven, but we took the same concept and put it in a smoker. So just taking some of those classic culinary or chef skills that I have, and applying those to our smoke show, our guys hanging out around the smoker, if you will.
Well, and it's interesting because, as I mentioned earlier in the show, and we've been talking about all show long, Pork is usually something that needs a friend. He needs an accompaniment. And it's funny, I gave that to Maz, and Maz said, do you have any sauce? And I said, you don't need it for that. That's, Dave, to me, that's the difference between this and everything else out here. Everything else out here, Mike, whether you use the barbecue bacon sauce, whether you use applesauce, whether you have whatever, that needs that, Robin to its Batman. To me, this already has it all encompassed in that pinwheel.
Oh, and that pork loves to play with sun-dried tomatoes, Boursin cheese, and the wrap. I'm speechless right now at how good that is and how well that worked,
Awesome.
and how
That makes
thankful
me
I
happy.
am for Chef's Dave's.
Dave, it's almost
brain.
like you've been a chef or something.
Wow.
It's really
for a
weird.
couple days, I guess. But again, it's back to applying those skills. That's all. Like that experience, but not making it unapproachable, right? So you, Sean, can do exactly that same thing at home and impress your wife. We talk about it all the time.
I've
about
done it.
Doing these things that are very
I've done some
easy.
stuff.
To me, they can be just as easy to you too. When you do them. So
And I think that's if people are out there listening and they want to try some of this, when they try it for themselves, they'll see actually it's not that difficult.
It's not.
We don't go too difficult. Now, if you were sitting there and you didn't know the flavor profiles to put together, and Dave does, then yes. But that's what we're here for. Dave can tell you all those flavor profiles that go together, and those go perfectly together.
messing around and adding what I always say layers of flavor, right?
Yep.
So taking that sous vide pork loin and then grilling it, or taking the brine pork chop and then adding the glaze and then throwing it in the smoker. But it's taking something and trying to add another level of excitement, if you will, but it's a flavor thing.
And you nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
We did this at my house. We did two different versions. We did the prime rib version. And Dave showed us to find the hidden treasure that we found.
Yeah.
That was a glorious moment. And then we also did the pork one, and Dave also taught us a few tricks. We did one on my Weber, one on my smoker when the boys came over. Dave, how did you work this bad boy out?
So this one here, I threw some just basic dry rub, some barbecue dry rub on there, and I threw it in the Traeger, and I forgot about it for a good 4 hours. I brought it up to $1.45 by 145, 150, and then I pulled it out and then let it rest, and we'll see how it turns out here. I'm going to slice it up.
One of the things that I want to point out, we were talking about this, is like, look at that crust. That's beautiful.
You're waiting to taste
can't
that
wait.
crust,
You
aren't you?
kidding me?
Because that's another flavor.
That nice pork loin is going to it's going to beg for, and I truly mean it's going to beg for some of this barbecue sauce or some of that applesauce.
Dave,
So feel free
Do you have a bunch of prosciutto there? Is that what you
go
got there?
for it.
Oh, thank you.
prosciutto, nice and crisp.
Can I ask
Hey,
you something?
did Stick and Maz try the candied bacon? I'm saying, like, these guys deserve some of this stuff. Is like, this is next level fun right there. A little bit of cayenne, a little heat. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take this big old pork loin. Let me grab that bad boy. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna tell you the meat in between.
habanero.
The meat in between the bone in there, right back in there. That's
What I'm waiting for.
And guess what? Guess what I did? I did this just for you, Mike, because I knew you would test me. What do you think I did to this pork loin?
You took the
Skin right off the back. You got it. You see that? I did. I do a lot of stuff for you guys.
Thank you.
You know what I have to point out, Mike? This is something that you and I went through, okay? Be careful when you're making your loins. Not all the loins are the same, okay? Like your lamb loins, if you ever do a rack of lambs, you have to take foil and wrap the little ends of those because they will catch fire. And they have caught fire. And even, Mike, if you remember last May on a very hot summer day,
Yep.
Mike and I told everybody, you have to foil these, right? And wouldn't you know it, even after foiling it, Mike, what happened?
Fire!
Fire.
Look at that smoke.
Literally.
ring.
And we caught it in time. Look at that.
Pork
Isn't that
loin
beautiful?
smoke ring.
Isn't that beautiful?
This
Look at
is
that.
really nice.
That's really cool.
You're gonna want to get in there, Sean.
Yeah, well, what you
one
got for
second.
me?
I got you, buddy. Can you smell it?
And
Yeah.
so
Hey, really, that smoke is
yes.
coming off there really nice.
So is this
You
number
got a
4?
steak knife right there. Look,
Is this
look.
4 or 5, Dave? Is this your 4th
Get
or
in there.
5th?
I'm bringing it right to you.
What?
That's right, Mike. You happy? You happy, Mike? That's what you get.
That's
got
what
the
you
got
get.
the bunny piece, and he gets the bones.
Again, this tastes totally different than everything else that we've had. What is the rub that's on there? Is
Yeah,
that butchering?
I was just gonna.
Yeah, that Kansas City kind of little heat, little sweet. You like it?
Did you go visit our friend?
You know what?
Old Man Kinder?
No. I visited Old Man Hubbard. Me. That's
Oh,
my
no
that's
kidding,
my
yeah?
rub. Yeah,
Is it?
100%. Oh yeah.
Wait,
I think-
how did this happen?
Anything that has the name butchery on it, it comes from my hands or my wife's hands. So
Okay.
yeah, that's it.
And
Those
I'd
are
rather-
really nice.
I
isn't
wouldn't
it? You
have
get a nice
anybody's
little-
hands
it's-
in there.
That's like baby back
That's good.
rib to the next level. You can make a couple friends off that. Let me slice up this pork loin.
Very smoky, Dave.
And-
Very smoky.
Yeah.
Very
And
smoky.
if we were in your backyard like we did last year, we could throw that
Still got
rib.
juice to it too.
We could throw that rib back on.
Yes.
Throw
And,
that-
and crisp it up a
That's
little
ex-
bit, right?
That's exactly what we did. Yeah. I chimed the bone a little bit different. I left the bottom bone on there, if you will, that blade bone, just so it could present well today. But when I brought it to Sean's house, I chimed that off there. So it was real easy. We took the pork loin, we cut it off, and then we took that whole baby back rib or the rack there, threw that thing on the his Weber grill, and oh my gosh. Well,
Now,
barbecue sauce,
taking that
next
bone
level.
off, is that something the butcher will do for you if you ask? I know you will.
Of course. If you, again, I said it a million times, you go to a butcher shop and you ask them to do something, they'll do it. That's what they're there for. They want to be
As long
your
as they
friend.
pay
wanna-
attention and have great customer service like the butchery.
100%.
You know my
Listen,
experiences, and you know why I'm saying that.
I know. Listen, Mike, you're so kind, but honest to goodness, you're right. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Everything else will work itself out.
100. We were just talking about that earlier, Dave.
That's
how
right.
to treat
Our
people,
friend
right?
Art today, who if you didn't notice, Art
That looks
decided
so
he didn't want to
juicy.
be our
That is
friend
nice.
today, but we still hooked him up with I still hooked him up with a rib. Shout out to our buddy Art.
Art is
Art-
officially fired from this job.
So let me
I've
get
got
some of
room.
this pork
I've got
loin.
room.
in the
Please,
dish
please.
here. Yeah.
Please. Oh my God!
And this,
Yeah,
you know
just
what's
throw it
funny?
right there.
I've said this to you guys
Pork
1,000 times. My favorite thing in the world is to hear, like what I'm hearing off to my right now. These guys going, man, this is good. That's great. I honestly, that is the greatest thing on earth, and that's why I think I can speak for these two guys. We love to do this. Like in my backyard, it's not just for us. It's like we've had shindigs for 40 people. We're going to have one next week for a bunch of people. This is just something that is near and dear to our heart. Look, all jokes aside, the eating's fun. I mean, no doubt about that. My 226 pounds will be the first person to tell you that eating's fun. Do you know what is more fun? Cooking for other people. Honestly, that's
right.
more fun for me.
Yeah, it's
More
almost
fun for
the
me.
camaraderie, the hanging out, the jokes, like making fun of each other.
No, we don't do any of that at my house.
Shoot, I think. Well, you don't know. We're not making fun of you, Sean. It's Mike and I. We're standing in the corner making fun of each other, but it's the having fun. Sorry, it's just the having the fun and the hanging out. I think that's 100% of it. Even as a chef, I've always said this, and it's always been important to me. It's the smiles on the faces, right? Like it's the folks that enjoy what you do that makes it worthwhile. And believe you me, if it's not right, you can tell in the eyes of people if it's not good or not. So when they like it, that's awesome.
I think all three of us have that in common, where we like to cook. We like to cook for others, and there's no better feeling than when you've nailed it, and the look on their face tells you they nailed it.
Do you want to try the pork loin?
I love when my dad goes.
The
I
loin.
love when my dad says to me, "You didn't make this." There's nothing better. There is nothing better than when my dad and Pops, I love you, but my dad has said that to me so many times. Like, honest to God, Christmas Eve, I made this unbelievable brisket. We were so honored. He's been so sick, but he's been able to come over, and he had a bite, and he looked at me, and he goes, "Where'd you get this from?" Dad, I did this for the last 16 hours. What are you talking about? You didn't make that. You didn't. No, you did. Where'd you get it from? You didn't.
Let's
make
hear the
that.
voice.
You know what? I'm
There it
tired
is.
of you lying. Ah, you lie. You didn't make anything. Dad, I made it. I just worked on this for 16 hours. You're incapable of making something that good.
I tell you, your
Thanks,
dad,
Pops.
Your dad turned into Cartman from South Park there real
didn't
quick.
he?
Did you get
Angry
that,
old
Art?
Cartman. Yeah, totally.
So, but I've got
Mike knows my dad. That's my dad. That's really his. Yeah. I love you, Pops.
I've got to say, so eating this, Dave. Tell me if I'm crazy here, Sean. You guys tell me if you got this too. On the one end of this piece that you cut off for me, it's a baby back rib, and then as you go into this, it gets more into like a pork chop.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
amazing.
It's the pork. Yeah, it's the pork loin. So you can see on the big picture behind us, that's the baby back rib that's on there. Then the loin that's in front. So you got a piece of the dry, and then or the piece of the loin, if you will, in the front where it's a little bit dry because it's kind of smoked
Yeah.
out there. And then the inside of that, a little bit more moist, and then that's your baby back rib.
It's got a little fat on it. Oh,
yeah, that little bit of fat
It's
cap,
like a,
100%.
It's like a
Yeah.
little trick to you. It's like, oh, I'm eating some baby backs. Wait, it's a pork chop.
And we left a little bit of that extra fat on top of the loin, right? So we left a little bit of that on top of there, so you can get a little bit of that juice, you know, that natural pork action inside there when you're eating.
And so that was 4 or 5 hours on your Traeger.
That's right. You know, you can have a lot of fun, right? Or you can be worried. I think, you know, pork and the smokers or the grills, you just take it and enjoy it as what it is. So I think doing things like the sous vide takes some of the pressure off, or because it's cooking it to the exact temp for you, so you don't have to worry as much, right? Same thing with brining, like brining that pork chop. You know it's tenderized it. It's kind of broken down the fibers inside there, so that meat's going to be soft. So you're almost like hedging your bets, right? You're kind of doing some things that will ensure you a much easier much easier way to get to a better final product, right? So it's taking the time in the beginning.
There's the T word again, because, you know, I can't help but every time remind people about this. This can all be done in rather easily in your own backyard if you set aside the time, you know. And I don't know if we've discussed it here before, but there were a few times in the summer Mike would be over my house at 7:30 in the morning, and my family would go, well, what are you guys doing all day? So beef short rib steak, 6, 7, 8 hours. What are you guys doing all day? Nothing. Isn't it beautiful? We're sitting in my backyard. We're having conversation. We don't have to lift up the damn thing. Just set that that time apart. You know, after a few hours, you take a look, you know, whether you have it, you know, via your phone or not, or you have a handheld thermometer. Take a look, see where it's at, and then say, okay, if I'm at 179 right now, I don't have to lift this thing up again for the next hour and a half. I just don't have to. And that's the easiest thing. And that's, to me, Dave, and I love that you, from your vast wealth of experience, you're able to share that to people, because, like, honestly, he's better than us, but we can all do what he does. I mean, that's the reality of it, and that's what it's all about.
It's true. It's true. I'm not doing anything magical or anything special. I think what I'm doing is taking a little bit of time, and like I said, applying some of those culinary skills, some of those classic techniques, if you will, to the smoke game, if you will.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of not warn people, but let them know that when they are checking their meat and they are probing it, every so often, people, a little piece falls off, and that's a bad piece that really needs to be taken off and eaten. Right, Sean?
I've never seen anybody do that.
If
you know what? Like, honestly, I'm good, right? Do you know what I would compare it to? I would kind of compare it to, I'm Steve Eiserman back in the late 80s. I put up some good seasons, right? He's Mario Lemieux. He's next level. Wait, you open that thing up a little bit, and Mike's hand, boom, it just starts in there. And the next thing you know, this was bad. I know, Mike, you have to eat it. Like that. So you're
all right, I'm gonna admit it, but the best part is the arguments of who's gonna open it, because you know whoever opens the lid can't grab the meat.
See how smart he is? That's what I'm talking about. That's what he's thinking. I'm playing chess. He's playing checkers. I'm playing checkers. He's playing chess. He's thinking 2 steps ahead.
Oh yeah. Gosh, Sean, can you grab that? Can you grab and open that? My arm really hurts. Did you see it?
You guys don't understand. Like, seriously? Well, that's why we're all. That's real. We all do this to each other. Dave, look at something happened to the ends of that brisket. Dave, I had to take that off.
The thing that I learned was, if I'm going to come and hang out, I have to do things like this, right? We're doing a pork loin show today, and what I bring, candied bacon, because I know Sean's going to want to eat something when he shouldn't be. And so we're trying to get it ready. So I made all this candied bacon, so I know I could put it out there, and Sean and Mike and whoever else comes in and watches us, because the scents bring all the guys in. And so I always have something there for you to pick on. So I've learned my little bit of
Big fan of the smoke show.
That's right. I learned my little bit of hanging out with Sean, and know that you better have something for him to snack on. Otherwise, he's gonna start snacking on whatever you have.
All right. So we did 5 or 6 different things of pork here, Dave. For everybody, do you want to go back just real quick and touch up on some of the finer points of what you did so we don't get the, you guys should be putting recipes out there?
Oh wow, Mike.
Well, I mean, come
He
on. How
started
many
with,
times
he
do we have to
started
say
with
it?
the Biden face, and look, he's really on fire today.
Because this is what you're going to get, Dave.
Angry
right here.
Mike? Is this Angry Mike?
Did you do the? I don't remember the recipe, Dave.
so freaky.
I don't remember.
How was that? How was that made again?
It's so
Yeah.
freaky.
This you're creeping us out.
That freaks me out, man. I'm not gonna
It's
lie
so
to
weird,
you.
like the skin and everything. It's
All right, so what do you
gross.
want? What do you want?
So we'll start at the top. We took a whole pork loin, right, and it has the pork tenderloin on one side and the loin on the other side, almost like on the beef, right? On the cow, you have the New York strip and the fillet, right? The porterhouse or T-bone. This is the whole loin, short loin of pork. So we smoked the whole pork loin with about 6 or 8 bones of pork there. We smoked that in our Traeger. We took a boneless pork loin and we pounded it out and rolled it up with some pancetta that we stuffed some sun-dried tomatoes and some boars and cheese and some spinach in that bad boy. That turned out really nice. You liked that one, Sean.
I did. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I think the moisture
I'm gonna
of
help my friend Art now.
yeah, the pancetta on the outside and all the goodness on the inside, it kind of helped it keep that thing nice and moist. And then on the end, you just see the bone of it here. We did the nice double chop. We did the sous vide, so we knew they were nice and cooked through perfectly to a 145.
Now
for me.
we have to. If we were in your backyard, what would be going on with these bones?
Oh my goodness, the dogs would be fighting.
Well, the dogs would be fighting me, and Sean would be fighting over the meat on that bone.
Sean would eat the meat, and then the bone, he would try to throw the bone as far as he possibly can to see if the dogs go and find it, and they do.
And it's for Mr.
Every
Dick.
time.
It doesn't matter. It
No.
doesn't, like in the woods,
And-
deep in the woods goes the bone.
And
the
let's
dog
not-
comes back with the bone.
They come running out. They're so
It's
happy.
unreal.
And let's not forget for these
And so, yeah.
chops. For those that want to come into the butchery and get them,
You got 'em.
Get the Duroc chops.
Oh yeah.
You will not.
There's a difference.
Be disappointed.
Hon-
There
honest
is
to
a
God,
difference.
there's a difference. Those are not just words. It's like
Same-
I always
like-
show
Whoa!
people.
Like the
You
Wagyu.
wanna do-
I'll help you out here.
Yeah.
It's like the Wagyu thing. You know, the higher end, the better breeding, the better raised animal gives you a much better finished product, right? We talk about it all the time. You start with a high end quality product, you're going to end up with a high end quality product. You cannot get a good piece of meat anywhere, and that's not a fact. The fact is that you have to seek out a really good piece of meat, and if you start with a really good piece of meat, do some basic things at home. Anybody can do it, like we've talked about, and then you got a real awesome finished product, right? That's all.
Absolutely.
So I'll continue, and then we took some boneless pork chops, those pork loin chops that we, that
I like that glaze.
that glaze is really nice, that root beer glaze. But I took those chops and we brine them, right? So a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, water, bay leaf, and a little bit of honey, and we let that brine for a couple hours and soften up the meat, if you will, and then threw that on the Traeger, and then added some root beer glaze, and then kind of let that cook a little bit. And what else did we do? We did I think this would have been Mike's favorite if it was nice and hot and crispy. I think you would have liked it a little bit more.
Yeah.
The pork tenderloin that we wrapped in the bacon, and we sous vide it. So the bacon wrapped on there, the pork tenderloin got all that smokiness from the bacon and all that good flavor inside there, because you said, oh, this tastes really smoky, which is kind of cool. And then when we this morning, all I did was throw it on the Traeger to kind of brown up that bacon and whatnot. It looks like it dries out a little bit. So this is something I think pork tenderloin, you probably want to do it right away, right? So let's get that thing come right out of the sous vide and then brown it, or throw it on a pan, or even throw it on your Traeger for a good 20 minutes on a higher temp. Brown up your bacon and eat it right then. It probably eats 10 times better than, obviously, we're in a studio, like it did maybe today. But the flavor was there. The depth of flavor is there. But eating that hot, I think it eats a lot better. 2 quick things, or 3. We did garlic and habanero barbecue sauce that has a nice punch to it. But Sean took that. He was really good. He liked that with the pork loin. We made a bacon and apple barbecue sauce.
It's all gone.
It's gone, but
I
we
don't know
made
where it went.
I did make it. And but I'm going to tell you how I did that. So because people do ask a lot of questions, so I'll break that down. It was pretty simple, actually. I sauteed a lot of apples, and then I just kind of blended it up in a Vitamix or a blender. And then I returned that back to the pan and added a bunch of chopped up, already cooked bacon, right? So you got a little, almost like, bacon bits, if you will.
Yep.
And then so the fat from the bacon, I added the apples to that and kind of mixed that for a while. Added a little bit of seasoning and some red pepper flakes, a little heat there, some honey, and kind of bound it together and kind of let that simmer for a little bit, and then put it back in the blender, blended it up a little bit, and then you should get a nice smoky but sweet thing going on because it's apples.
It's incredible.
And it does
You
have a little
nailed
bit of
it.
chunk to it.
Bottle it.
Okay, and then I made some cinnamon apple sauce. So we know Sean. They tease him about being the old guy.
Pork
So-
chops and applesauce.
That's right. So pork chops and applesauce. So I just sauteed some apples again and pureed half of them, and then sauteed some more apples with some brown sugar, and then just kind of folded that together and a good amount of cinnamon to make some applesauce. Really quick, simple recipes you can make at home. And you don't really need a lot. If you got a bag of apples and a little bit of cinnamon, a touch of butter, you can make a lot. You can have a lot of
And
You
if
might
you
just
have,
eat that's like a cereal.
It's really
Can I
nice,
do
isn't
that?
it?
oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
bacon is awesome.
And if
isn't
you
it?
have email, you can always email Chef Dave.
That's right.
And we can get these recipes that you can do yourself. Whether you have a Traeger, or you have a Masterbuilt, or a Grilla, or a Pit Boss.
Mike, I'm so glad that you brought that up. No, really.
Z
if-
Grill.
Yeah.
I was having a
crock
conversation
pot.
with somebody over the weekend.
With some
maybe
smoked
back
chips.
in
Yeah.
Britain, where somebody literally said to me, I'd love to make ribs, but I don't have a smoker. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
time out. Dude.
We've talked about it on the show.
Yeah, like
100%.
no, it's so easy. It's same premise, low and slow. Now listen, are you going to get the smoke flavor? You're not going to get the smoke flavor, okay? You can make a damn good. Mike and I have probably made 5,000 racks of ribs in our life before I got a smoker. Right? Like that's what we did. It was just 250. There are different ways you can do it. You can do it wrap. You can do it unwrap. Low and slow. The same basic principle is there. Just make sure that temperature gets between 201 and 204. It's all good. No problem.
Remember, we also talked about it. I didn't have a smoker until after we hung out a few times, right? I was itching to hang out
We talked
with.
about
Can we say
itching to hang out with you guys so I could
Traeger
use
grills,
your
you're
smoker and your
welcome.
smoker. What's up?
I said Traeger grills, you're welcome for that sale. It's not the only one that we've sold.
Sean pushes those things. Like
Oh,
he's
we all do.
on the corner somewhere. Like, I swear, but they're worth it. They're worth it.
Oh, absolutely,
Full
100%.
endorsement. It's shameless. But
Happy
it is what it
birthday
is.
to me.
Traeger's good stuff.
Even when they make sure that they get the piece of equipment I need. I'm tired of mine being on the DL. Sorry, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
It really. I you know this. Even with the Masterbuilt, I feel naked without the Traeger. I do. It's just that the Masterbuilt is good. The Traeger is great. That would be the way that I describe it. Masterbuilt's good. I can do almost everything I want to do on the Masterbuilt. The Traeger's great.
It is. I mean, there's nothing about it. But Dave, you just shocked yourself, didn't you?
Pork loin's really nice.
Yeah, right.
I think that cheese kind of the
It
moisture.
goes
I told you,
together.
dude.
Everything I actually said is real. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like you're a chef or something, right?
I'm like, you should
It
get
was
this.
total
You should get
BS
this.
till you ate it.
It should be moist. That sun-dried tomatoes got the sweetness in there.
It's awesome.
It all
It's
came
really
together
nice, huh?
nicely because it didn't taste like all those three ingredients to me.
You're right. Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah,
taste like
yeah.
all three of the
It
ingredients.
created its own
Yeah,
flavor
it
profile,
kinda
right?
had its
yeah,
own flavor
100%.
profile.
Absolutely.
All right, is there anything else we need to get to?
No, I was just going to ask you what are we doing next week?
Oh.
I know what you told me you originally wanted to do. I don't know if you still want to do it.
I got Mike disease. I think I forgot.
Mike disease.
Hey,
Here's the
Andy-
thing. Don't make old jokes. Mike's memory was bad 30 years ago. It just was. Weren't we talking about doing different sandwiches?
Totally. That'd
Yeah,
be,
you
that'd
wanna
be a
do
lot of fun.
different
Yeah,
sandwiches?
yeah, and kind of
Okay.
preview what we're going to do maybe at somebody cool's house.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody's
And-
coming over my
and-
house. Even if it's 25 degrees, we're coming over, we're barbecuing.
Cool.
So
yeah.
we're gonna
Sandwiches sounds like fun.
You want to do that?
What kind of, is there anything
Or do you want to
specific
save that for the next week because everybody's going to be over at my house? Maybe we save that for the next week. I'm so glad that we're planning these things while we're on the
That's
air,
right.
which is really
Show
cool.
meeting.
Maybe we should talk about what we're doing at my house, right?
Yeah.
You want to do that?
We can talk about what we're going to do at
Okay.
the house on the 20th, and then we can...
How to prepare for a big shindig like that.
And
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be good.
And as always,
That's a great
Dave
idea.
will have a few surprises for us to make or create. Maybe we can make something here. I know what I'm thinking. Something that we had a lot of fun with doing over the summer.
If we preview the show, maybe we start curing some pork belly. Is that what you want to make, some bacon? I love it. I know this guy. So I'll bring up, you know what? I'm going to get a real nice big old slab of pork belly. And we'll get this guy snorting like the pig we're going to
So
split.
basically what we just did was,
we're gonna-
hey, Mike, what do you want to do next week? You tell us.
Boom.
and I get right in there.
You always tease, but he is the glue. He kind of keeps us together.
and at
Was I arguing with that? No way.
Give me an
He's the
idea.
glue.
I'll cook and I'll come up with ideas all day
I
long.
know what my point
This
is.
guy's the
I
planner.
don't
He's
do
the
anything.
Exactly.
You guys come over to my house. I don't do
And,
anything.
and at the
I know
end, we'll
that.
review the hockey lines and make some bets.
All right.
Good. Sounds good to me.
All right. So thank you. This was outstanding today. We
Thank you.
had Stick come in and go 7 2/3 of an inning. He only gave up 5 hits and 1 earned run, but he was at his pitch count. He's at 110 pitches.
Yep.
So we brought Art in to get the 4-out save.
Ooh, big one.
Clean sheet for Art. No runs, no hits. Art picks up the save. So thank you to Stick. Thank you to Art.
Yep.
As always, Dave Hubbard, you're the man. Make sure
Thank
you
you.
check him out. He's a wealth of knowledge, and for all your butchery needs, go to the butcher. Want to thank President Biden as well.
Glad I could be here.
I'm going to have nightmares about that creepy face. For President Biden, Mike Iveso, my name's Sean Baligian. We'll see you next week. Later.
Bye.
See you later, Chef Dan.